Maybe we should get started, Karen.
Okay, great. Hi, welcome. I want to thank you for joining us today, and I want to thank Michelle and Alternative Balance for supporting the community and providing the space for us. Today, we're talking about common sleep issues that arise for kids age 4 to 18 months and solutions to help you troubleshoot so that you can all get the sleep you need and to make sleep easy. At the end, we'll go through your pre-submitted questions, and if there's time, I would love to do some live questions as well. If we don't get to a question, or if you're watching this recording later and you have any questions, feel free to email me. I want everyone to get as much out of this as possible, okay? So who am I? I am Karen Schender, the founder of Sleep Tight Tonight, certified pediatric sleep specialist and coach, certified safe sleep ambassador, mom of an almost 3-year-old, and author of My Scar is Beautiful. I have supported hundreds of families through the transition and exhausting world of newborn, baby, and toddler sleep. Being a parent is hard. Being an exhausted parent is next to impossible. I specialize in all things baby and toddler sleep to help make sleep easy and to teach little ones how to self-soothe and fall asleep without parental assistance. I genuinely love supporting families, being part of the transformation, and seeing the joy when families can sleep again. I am passionate about helping families turn their sleepless nights into easy, peaceful bedtimes and sweet dreams. As a mother whose daughter was born with congenital heart defects and had 2 open heart surgeries before she was 3 months old, I totally understand the impact and frustration of being sleep deprived, the anxiety that crying can cause parents, while also understanding the importance and power of getting restful, restorative sleep. My daughter is the inspiration behind why I am a sleep coach and my book, My Scar is Beautiful. It's a book that empowers the reader to wear their scar of any kind of any origins with pride and confidence. I live in Atlanta, but my services are virtual and nationwide. I support families one-on-one, in real time, and in group workshops just like this. One thing you should know about me is that I'm not here to judge anyone. While safe sleep is the foundation of healthy sleep habits, and I practice safe sleep with clients, if you are a family that wants to co-sleep or you want to breastfeed until your child is 10 years old, I am not here to judge you. If what you are doing is working for you, there is no need to call me. But if whatever your family is doing is no longer sustainable or working for you and you want to make a change, that's where I come in to help. Okay, so we all know sleep is natural and we all need it. Just like eating, walking, or writing, sleep is also a learned skill. Babies do know how to sleep, but they do not have the ability to organize their own days and nights into predictable rhythms, even though they have a biological need to do so. This is why parents must take the lead and create routine structure for their babies and for themselves. Why is sleep so important for babies? Babies need nutrition and sleep to facilitate healthy growth. They grow physically, developmentally, and mentally during extended periods of restorative sleep. You quite literally may wake up one morning and see your baby looks older and taller. It is not your imagination. So before we dive into sleep for 4 to 18-month-olds, it helps to take a look at the science of sleep to understand how sleep evolves. Perhaps your baby used to or still does fall asleep in your arms. When you put them in the crib, they wake right back up. Does that happen to you? Up until about 3.5 to 5 months of age, baby has only 2 sleep cycles, active and quiet. Do you know which cycle may cause baby to wake up if you put her down during that cycle? That's right. Newborns slip directly into REM-like sleep, active sleep, upon nodding off, whereas everyone else experiences several sleep cycles before hitting REM. That means if you try to put them down or move while they're in active sleep, they will likely wake up, as they are easily startled and awakened at this time. So it is in this phase, in active sleep, it is here that parents often mistake their child for being awake because they twitch, flinch, eyes flutter, maybe they slam their legs down, they move a lot, and they're noisy sleepers. Wait about 20 minutes for baby to transition to quiet sleep, and then you'll be able to put them down and move them maybe from the car seat to the crib easily. It's around that 3.5 to 5 month time that a baby's sleep cycle matures to be more like that of an adult who has 4 to 5 cycles. This is often what people refer to as the 4-month sleep regression, although it is not so much as a regression as it is a physiological change in baby's sleep cycle, making it harder to connect the sleep cycles. Sleep and hormones have a reciprocal relationship. Sleep is essential for hormone regulation. Hormones regulate our internal clock, and while we sleep, our endocrine system replenishes the hormones our body needs to function. Of the many hormones involved, cortisol and melatonin are two of the most vital. Cortisol is responsible for our fight or flight instinct, and levels rise when we are stressed or sleep deprived. Cortisol levels drop at bedtime and peak in the morning to wake us up. Light and the sun stimulate cortisol production so that we feel energy and awake when it is light out. When parents try to tire out a baby by keeping them up at night, it can backfire because this increases their cortisol levels and makes it harder for the child to fall asleep. Melatonin, or the sleep hormone, is at its highest levels when it is dark, peaking at night, and it is lowest during the day. This is why we recommend sleeping in darkness, limiting screen time up to an hour before bedtime, and having a calming bedtime routine. For those of you who pump, here's a tip. Label your milk with date and time so that you give cortisol-filled milk in the morning and melatonin-filled milk to help baby sleep at night. So what do you do when your kiddo isn't sleeping well? How can you help them sleep better? There are three main ways to do this. First, create a safe sleep environment. Second, establish a consistent and calm bedtime routine. And three, eliminate dependent sleep associations. To eliminate the sleep associations, I recommend using a sleep training method that aligns with your parenting style, and I can help you choose the right option for your family. As a certified safe sleep ambassador, I am passionate about practicing safe sleep, and a critical part of achieving healthy sleep habits begins with safe sleep environments, no matter your child's age. If you're not already familiar with the ABCs of safe sleep, it means baby should always be put down alone, on his back, and in his crib. He should be in his own sleep space. Nothing else, no blankets, bumpers, pillows, loose bedding, stuffed animals, only a tight fitted sheet on a horizontal, firm, flat mattress. A firm surface maintains its shape and does not indent nor conform to the hand or shape of baby's head when placed on a surface. A memory foam is not safe for this reason and could increase the chance of rebreathing or suffocation. Couches or armchairs are extremely dangerous places for infants and should never be used for infant sleep, as they place infants at a high risk for infant death. Mattress toppers are designed to make the sleep space softer and are not suitable for safe sleep or for those under 1 year old. A mattress cover to protect from wetness is okay, but should be tightly fitted and thin. As I said, no wedges, pillows should be placed under the sheets or over the mattress to elevate the infant off the mattress or create an angled sleep surface. This strategy is ineffective in reducing reflux. The crib should be no more than 10 years old. The sleep space should be cleared of any hazards such as dangling cords, electric wires, window coverings, because all of this may present a strangulation risk. Even if baby is able to roll, to reduce the risk of sleep-related death, AEP recommends that infants be placed for sleep on their back for every sleep by every caregiver until the child reaches 1 year of age. So always put baby down on his back for the first year. If baby rolls back to belly and back again on his own, it is okay for him to sleep on his tummy to sleep. If he cannot return back to his laying on his back on his own, it is best to go in and flip him over until he can. Side sleeping is not considered safe until they can roll on their own as well. It wasn't until I saw this image that I fully understood the science behind why it is safest for babies to sleep on his back. Back sleeping does not increase the risk of choking. In fact, infants may be better able to clear fluids when they are on their backs, possibly because of anatomy. When an infant is back sleeping, like the infant here shown on the left, the trachea lies on top of the esophagus. So anything regurgitated or refluxed from the esophagus must work against gravity to be aspirated into the trachea or the windpipe. When an infant is in the stomach sleeping position, anything regurgitated or refluxed will pull at the opening of the trachea, making it easier for the infant to inhale it, aspirate it, or choke. Infants can also suffocate on the sheets or from rebreathing their own carbon dioxide. So this is why putting baby to sleep on his back is so important. As of June 2022, the AEP released its latest safe sleep guideline. Things to know: when to stop swaddling. In the past, one doctor on the AEP board, Dr. Rachel Moon, advised parents to stop swaddling at 8 weeks or the first sign of rolling, whichever had come first. This was an unrealistic goal and often a burden on parents, as most kids don't roll until usually around 3 or 4 months. So recently, the AAP revised its stance to officially say stop swaddling when an infant exhibits signs of attempting to roll. Many people, including pediatricians, still erroneously quote Dr. Milne. Sitting devices and inclined sleepers, such as a car seat or stroller, swing, an infant carrier, or sling, they're not recommended for routine sleep. It is best to move baby to a safe sleep space as soon as it is safe and practical. Number 3, AEP officially states that weighted sleep sacks or swaddles, things like nested bean, are unsafe for sleep. Number 4, the FDA does not recommend the Owlet or other at-home heart or pulse ox monitors, as they can give a false sense of security and are not a medical device as per the FDA. It has also been known to leave marks, kind of like a burn mark, on the bottom of kids' feet. Number 5, sleep positioners like wedges, boppies, or DockATots are not safe. And on November 9th, 2022, the U.S. Consumer Safety Commission said to immediately discontinue use of DockATot for lounging or for sleep to reduce the risk of suffocation. But it's important to note that DockATot as a manufacturer has not issued a product recall as of yet. Number 6, hats are cute, but once home from the hospital, they are unnecessary and unsafe and can lead to overheating and are not recommended. So there has been confusion over terminology. So AEP had also clearly identified co-sleeping or surface sharing as not safe, and defined the difference between co-sleeping and room sharing, as they are often used interchangeably. Co-sleeping is sharing the same sleep surface, a bed, couch, chair, while room sharing is having baby sleep in your room, but on his own safe sleep space. There's evidence that room sharing decreases the risk of SIDS by as much as 50%. AEP also changed the recommendation on how long to room share. Previous guidelines said up to a year, but now the AEP shortened the recommendation to encourage room sharing for at least the first 6 months, as 90% of SIDS happen during that time. Whether a family decides to move baby to the nursery before that period or continue room sharing past 6 months is really up to the family. I always encourage families to do what works best for their family. Okay, so hear me out. The media drives me nuts. This is from an episode of a screenshot taken from my TV from This Is Us. There are 4 ways here that are unsafe: the hat, bumpers, blankets, and the baby is on his belly. The media perpetuates the confusion over what is safe and what is not safe by continuing to prioritize the cute factor, and it's scary and dangerous. Okay, so the AEP only talks about safe sleep for kids under 1. So as this is a group for 4 months to 18 months, what does safe sleep look like after the first birthday? As they may already be walking or soon to be, the room needs to be childproof. If you're in a crib, or if your child is in a crib, the mattress should be at the lowest setting, usually 3 levels on a crib. And to limit their ability to climb out, you can use a sleep sack to restrict their legs and to limit their ability to climb. And plus, a sleep sack is also used for warmth. The sleep sack is still a better alternative than a blanket for kids under 2 years old. If your child is in a bed, the room should be childproofed with outlets covered, window cords tied up or removed, furniture strapped to the wall, and to prevent tipping, all the works. At this age, anytime after 12 months, your child can have a lovey or stuffed animal in the crib, but I don't recommend having a pillow or a blanket until after 2. So you've set up a safe sleep environment. Next is establish a consistent and calm bedtime routine. From bath to crib, it should take about 30 minutes to bedtime. That last feed is not included in the bedtime timer, if you will. It is never too early to start a routine. Bedtime routines are critical for children of all ages. It provides a sense of calm and predictability and cues them that it is time for bedtime. This is my go-to routine with my daughter and with all my clients, and is a part of every plan I write. Once you get back to their room, after bath and brushing teeth, it is best to stay there so that they know it is time for bed. End with books and a song and say a goodnight phrase, something simple, and leave. The whole routine is very simple, and you can do this every single night. You, as an adult, you probably have a routine too that you don't even realize. You probably wash your face, brush your teeth. Maybe, there's certain things that you do every night, and that is your bedtime routine. It's just the same for children. In the morning, It is important to anchor that wake up so that your child wakes up at the same time every day, give or take about 15 to 30 minutes. For nap time, do the same routine as bedtime, but a shortened version. So maybe for about 5 to 10 minutes instead of a half hour. Some of you may be thinking, but I am already doing a bedtime routine like this, and my baby is still waking every 2 to 3 hours overnight. What gives? Well, there are other factors that affect sleep too. There are independent or child-led sleep associations, and there are dependent or parent-led sleep associations. If you are assisting your child to sleep using one of these dependent sleep associations, your child relies on that action to fall asleep. So however your child falls asleep is what they think they need it to have in place in order to fall back to sleep. They're reliant on something external to fall asleep. For the feed to sleep association, move that feed earlier in the bedtime routine so you're not feeding to sleep. Kids with dependence associations are more likely to struggle with overnight wakings and cat naps. The good news is we can work together to break that association by implementing a consistent bedtime routine and a sleep method that aligns with your parenting style. On the other hand, sleep associations, independent sleep associations, are things like white noise, blackout curtains, definitely just combine those, white noise and blackout curtains, putting on a sleep sack, even the zipper itself, right? The sound of a zip could be a sleep cue. Putting on a sleep sack, bedtime routine, all of that, those are independent sleep associations. If you're not doing one yet, start tomorrow, or better yet, start tonight. These independent sleep associations are all crucial to healthy sleep habits. Okay, so let's dive into each of these factors that affect sleep and possible culprits to why your child is waking early or overnight, struggling with naps or battling bedtime, or struggling to fall asleep, right? So it breaks down to one of these 6 factors: environment, sleep association, sleep schedule, transitions, hunger, and yes, possibly your parental response. So number 1, perhaps the environment is not conducive to sleep. So speaking of sleep environment, along with safe sleep, we want to set up an environment that is conducive to sleeping. You may want to check your sleep space. Is it too warm, too cold, too bright, too dark, too noisy, too quiet? Does the HVAC turn on at a certain time every day, disrupting sleep? Use a white noise machine. It is best to use white noise instead of rain or ocean. Any of those sounds don't mimic the room, whereas white noise mimics the blood whooshing sounds of the room, and it blocks out side noise. Room temperature should be between 68 to 72 degrees Fahrenheit. Dress baby in 1 layer more than you are wearing. Swaddles are super helpful and important to helping a newborn who cannot yet roll with managing the Moro reflex. The Moro reflex is what makes them startle herself awake. She makes jerky movements and she kind of startles herself awake. So a swaddle helps limit that reflex. As soon as baby shows signs of rolling, it is no longer safe to swaddle, and I recommend moving to a sleep sack. Again, it is never too early to do a bedtime ritual, so that's part of this. Have a baby sleep horizontal and in the crib whenever possible. When baby falls asleep in your arms and wakes up in their cribs, it's disorienting to them. They wake up and they're like, wait, where am I? So this is part of environment, because if they fall asleep where they wake up, it's less scary for them. And if your child is all comfy cozy and always used to napping in the stroller or in your arms or something fluffy and comfortable, but at night they don't have that, they have a hard, firm surface, they're not going to want that mattress. So the more you can practice, the better your child will adjust. So we already talked about sleep associations and how that affects sleep. If you haven't learned to fall asleep, if your child hasn't learned to fall asleep independently at bedtime, they are more likely to need assistance from you to resettle to sleep during cycle transitions or overnight. And this is a skill that we can help them learn. Factors number 3, a sleep schedule. When a sleep schedule isn't age appropriate, baby gets easily either over or undertired. There's only so much sleep that can be had in 24 hours. The goal is to use the right age appropriate schedule, or more of a pattern sometimes for the younger ones, to find the right balance. If daytime sleep patterns don't follow age appropriate wake windows, or if wake up time or bedtime is too early or too late, then the child may fight falling asleep, have fragmented sleep, overnight wake ups, early morning wake ups, have crap naps. It's ironic and it's counterintuitive, but the more exhausted your child is, the more likely he'll have a hard time settling down. If you notice that perhaps he's getting hyperactive at the end of the day, That is also a sign of overtiredness. You can try bumping bedtime up by 15 to 30 minutes. Okay, so as your child grows, their total sleep needs change. So while a 6-month-old can stay awake for 2.5 hours and needs 14.5 hours of sleep in 24 hours, a 15-month-old, by comparison, may be able to stay awake for 6 hours with only 13 to 13.5 hours of sleep in 24 hours. I just had a client last week ask me, well, why is my 18-month-old waking overnight? And then we looked at the schedule and saw that he was taking a midday 2.5-hour nap and waking around 3:30. We moved the nap earlier, capped it at 90 minutes so that it started at 1:30 and with a bedtime of 7 p.m. And what do you know? That night, the baby slept through the night. If he had a bedtime of 7 p to 7 a, that's 12 hours. And if he was sleeping in 2.5 hours during the day, that's 14.5 hours of sleep. And that's the target for a 9-month-old. And when an 18-month-old, his target is about 13 to 13.5 hours in 24 hours. He was using up his nighttime sleep bank during the day. That's why age-appropriate schedules are so critical. Not only do total sleep needs change, nap needs change as your child ages too. Daytime sleep impacts nighttime sleep. So for the 2-to-1 transition from 2 naps to 1 nap, it typically happens around 15 to 18 months, but can happen as early as 12 months, specifically or especially when daycares are involved, because they may encourage dropping that nap earlier to fit their schedule, making this the most varied time frame. For those on 1 nap, make sure you time the afternoon nap so that it's over by 3 p.m. so it's not pushing too close to bedtime. When it comes to nap transitions, look for these signs for about 5 to 7 days of the week for at least 2 weeks. And ask yourself, is this a developmental milestone or a transition time? If they're learning to pull up, their crawl, walk, maybe all of these developmental milestones, these new skills can lead to overtiredness and nap resistance. This is not your child saying that they are ready to drop a nap, and they may return to normal routine in a few days. Regressions or disruptions like teething may look similar, but are temporary. And so again, we want to see this consistent for at least 2 weeks. Signs to drop a nap. Daytime sleep and the last nap is pushing bedtime later and later, often past 8 p.m. Another sign, number 2, a consistent schedule begins to go haywire. You notice an increase in bedtime battles, middle of the night wakings, early morning wakings, etc. Number 3, split nights. Waking between 12 a.m. and 4 a.m. This means they likely do not have enough sleep pressure going into the bedtime and are sleeping too much during the day. So we want to reevaluate their daytime sleep. Number 4, they're boycotting naps or struggling to fall asleep, and it has taken them more than 25 to 30 minutes to fall asleep. We aim to have them falling asleep within 10 to 15 minutes of going into the crib. So I guess that I get asked this a lot. How do I go about dropping a nap? First thing to know is don't rush this transition. I'll say it again. We want to see these signs for 2 weeks or more. It can take anywhere from 2 to 8 weeks for your child's internal clock to fully adjust to the transition, and that is normal. The other thing you want to take into consideration is you want to make sure that your child is sleeping the right amount of hours in 24-hour periods. Again, following that age-appropriate schedule. I have a great free sleep chart cheat sheet on my website, and I encourage you to check that out if you have questions. During nap transitions, your child may struggle to make it from the end of the last nap until bedtime. And if that happens, I recommend offering an early bedtime. And you could do an early bedtime as early as 6 to 6:30, but I don't recommend doing a bedtime earlier than 6 p.m. For more details and sample schedules on how to transition per age group, feel free to check out my complete guide to nap transitions on my website or shoot me an email. I'm happy to answer questions. One of the most common issues around naps is cat naps. A short cat nap is better than nothing, but it is even better to try to extend that nap. Because let's face it, mom and dad need longer than 30 minutes of a break to rest. And cat naps don't allow the brain to enter slow wave sleep, which means sleep isn't restorative. Restorative sleep is needed for health and development, which promotes healthy immune systems, metabolic health and digestion, emotional regulation, the ability to store memories, comprehend and process what was learned during the day, physical growth, and improved mental health. So restorative sleep is important. Sleep benefits all humans. Just like you need sleep, so does your baby. Short naps are developmentally common and normal for kids 6 months and younger, but that doesn't mean we can't work on them. One of the ways I work on extending naps is by encouraging parents to not rush in immediately. Give your child a few minutes of space to try to fall asleep on their own. When we work together, we troubleshoot your specific situation, and I teach other ways as well to work on extended naps. Other things to know about naps is that they are hard, and the first nap of the day is often the easiest and most important. Baby still has melatonin in their system, and it sets the tone and the pace for the rest of the day. As the day goes on, you can be more flexible with naps. If baby is on 3 naps, aim for 2 naps in the crib to start and build. It is okay for the last nap of the day to be on the go. That last nap bridges the gap between the final nap of the day and bedtime and allows baby to get to bedtime without getting overtired. Another factor, number 5, that affects sleep is the big transition. Changes in routine like travel or being sick or teething can throw your child's sleep routine off temporarily. If you're traveling, unknown environments can be scary and disrupt sleep. Help adjust to the space by playing in the sleep space during the day, not just at bedtime. When they are sick, it is okay to give extra cuddles and extra hugs. Sleep really is the best medicine, so it's okay to deviate from the usual schedule slightly. Once you return home from vacation or your child is feeling better, just jump back into the regular sleep schedule. Around 18 months, some toddlers experience another bout of separation anxiety, and this can cause sleep disruptions too. Or perhaps there's a new sibling, or she is now craving some more mommy and daddy time. While it is a phase, give her as much attention during the day, create special one-on-one time, and give extra few snuggles at bedtime. To reduce the risk of jealousy of a new sibling, instead of saying, I can't play right now, I'm nursing, my personal trick is saying as soon as. So I'll play with you as soon as I'm done nursing, so that your child doesn't feel dismissed or ignored. Learning to go potty or scribble with a crayon, riding a bike, learning to talk, or even teething, they're all new milestones that your toddler is hitting, and that can impact sleep. Typically, teething, it only has an impact in the 1 to 3 days before the tooth pops through. If you're seeing teething issues for a week, 2 weeks, it's a sleep disruption. It's not probably from the teething. And then there's the crib to bed transition. This is a big transition. Please don't rush it. I strongly recommend that you wait as long as possible. Seriously, if you're transitioning from 2 to 1 or whatever phase you are transitioning from, there is no reason to put your child who is 18 months, 2 years old, in a bed. Just think because just because you think it's the right thing to do or it's the next thing you're supposed to do, when you get to this part, when they get old enough, just stop and think if it's really necessary. Because just because you think they're old enough or because you have another baby on the way, I promise they are not ready yet. If there is a sibling coming along, great, congratulations. Just buy another crib. If you don't want to buy another crib, get another pack and play. If your child is sleeping fine in the crib, don't fix what isn't broken. Please leave them there. I know some 4-year-olds who are still in cribs. That's perfectly okay. It's their safe space. It's what they're comfortable. It's what they're used to. Moving too soon opens a whole nother bag of sleep troubles. And you'll be calling me because your child won't stay in their won't stay in their bed and keeps coming into yours at 3 a.m. is starting to say that they're scared. And not to mention the safety hazard of your child not being supervised and having free roam of the room or potentially of your house. Even a childproof room is not a guarantee. They can fall down steps, get into a room that has equipment in it that's not safe. There's just so many reasons that children still need boundaries. If your child is 18 months and thinks a big kid bed means free reign of the house, that is potentially a very dangerous situation. So please don't rush it. That said, before we go on, if your child is climbing out of the crib and it is posing a safety issue, then safety first. Number 6, hunger impacts sleep. First and foremost, it is best to avoid the feed to sleep association we talked about earlier. It's important you don't feed them to sleep. You feed them upon waking. And then the final feed should be at the start of the bedtime routine and not at the end, so that there's at least 15 minutes or more between the feed and going into the crib. Kids who are sleeping through the night are generally consuming all of their calories during the daytime hours. I just had a client of mine, a mother of an 18-month-old, who tell me that she's still offering feeds overnight because she thinks he needs it and she didn't know how to stop. First, I told her to discuss it with a pediatrician. Second, there are 3 possible situations here. First, a child eating milk overnight is not eating more than if they were eating all of those calories during the day. It's still the same amount of food. They're just getting those calories at night. If they are hungry overnight and they aren't eating enough during the day, if they are hungry overnight, that means that they aren't eating enough during the day. Number 2, if they won't eat more during the day, that's probably because they are eating overnight. So it's a cycle. Then number 3, if the food tank is full during the day and they are still waking up middle of the night to feed, how much are they likely eating? Likely, especially as they're getting older, they aren't actually hungry, but are comfort feeding, which means that they are using your breast or bottle to soothe themselves back to sleep. This is because they don't know how to self-soothe and fall asleep without your intervention. Being fed to sleep, as you've said, is a sleep association, a sleep crutch, a sleep prop, whatever you want to call it. So if this is something that resonates with you, contact me so we can talk about it. Number 7, so often kids aren't sleeping through the night because of a parental intervention, whether it is intentional or not. Oftentimes parents rush in because they are afraid the baby will wake a sibling or because parents want to stop or fix the cries. Crying is just our child communicating. It doesn't mean that they are in pain. Depending on their age, I recommend waiting 10 to 15 minutes before going in to see if your child can fall asleep on their own. More often than not, they'll fall back to sleep on their own. They just need the opportunity to try. Just yesterday, my daughter woke up from her 90-minute nap at the 45-minute mark. I waited 8 minutes and she was able to put herself back to sleep, and she slept for another 45 minutes. Imagine if I had gone in too soon. Boundaries are a big one. Your child needs to know you are serious and that there is nothing fun happening while they are sleeping. You can give options, but still remain within your boundary. For example, it's bath time and they want to keep playing. You can say, would you like to skip to the stairs or walk backwards to the stairs? They have the choice on how they get to the stairs, but the boundary remains that it is time to go take a bath. Or just like you're not going to let them have bubbles for breakfast or play with a sharp knife, you need to set boundaries for sleep. Parental mindset. I think a lot of this is a parental mindset issue for parents. If you can get yourself to a place where you can understand that you're not doing anything terrible to your child, you're not harming your child, but you're really doing something wonderful for your child, then it's a whole lot easier to hear your child upset because you know that they just don't understand and that they'll feel better in a couple days. Another common issue we see is bedtime battles or bedtime stalling. So what do you do when your child is protesting sleep at bedtime or in the middle of the night? Do you see a pattern? So we've already covered some of these topics tonight, but it's all about consistency. Consistency is critical. So first, why are they protesting? Look at the daytime schedule. Say that last nap ended at 4 p.m. and you have a 7:30 bedtime. 6-month-old with a wake window of 2.5 hours will be overtired and fussy, and an 18-month-old with a wake window of 5 to 6 hours is not going to be tired for a 7:30 bedtime. If the daytime schedule is okay, then we look at what is happening around your bedtime and your reaction to your child's protest. Of course, no one likes to hear their child cry, and we want to minimize it. However, it is really important for us as parents to let our children have their feelings. Always pacifying the crying is not going to give our children the opportunity to feel or express themselves in any way, which is really what children are doing. Crying is a form of communication. It's how they regulate their emotions. Teaching your child to fall asleep independently is not a punishment or selfish. Behind the tears is a message. Am I saying to you that you should be hard on your child or leave your child to cry alone? No, absolutely not. My goal is to teach you how to listen to and understand what your child is saying, to better be there and bond with and support and help your child with what they need. When I work with clients, I teach them 3 different phases of crying to understand what your child is saying. No one likes change. Okay. They are upset because it's change. It's not what they're used to or what they want. And that's okay. They can feel that way. Some parents get super anxious about their children being upset at bedtime. However, there are times in life and parenting where you are going to say no. Your children are upset and you aren't all that fazed by it. And this is just one of those times. Some examples I like to give are if your 2-year-old is in the kitchen and reaches up and grabs a knife off the counter, you would quickly grab it out of their hands because you want to keep them safe. Your child may have a complete meltdown about that and throw themselves on the floor, kick and scream. And you wouldn't feel bad because you know you just kept them safe. Implementing healthy sleep habits is the same thing. Another example I give is when a child is starting preschool or daycare for the first time. Kids will have a really hard time with change with this. They're nervous and anxious, and it pulls at our heartstrings, and we may cry when we drop them off. But we also know that school and socialization is what's best for our children. The separation is even good for them. Then, a couple weeks in, they are totally thriving and couldn't care that you were dropping them off. And they are having the best time, and you feel like you did right by your child. Again, it's the same thing with sleep. Your child is upset about the change at first, and once they realize that sleep is good for them, and it feels good to feel rested, they stop crying and they love going to bed. It's really the same thing. So how you respond as a parent is critical. We talked about setting boundaries and not rushing in already. Oftentimes, a child is protesting or getting in bed with you in the middle of the night or protesting bedtime simply because you let it happen. So if your child is crawling in bed with you and you're co-sleeping, if you say, Teddy, we're not going to have sleepovers tonight, you're going to have to sleep in your own bed tonight. And then that night, Teddy winds up in your bed anyway. He is not going to take you seriously. There has to be a night where you survive not having your child in bed with you so that they know, hey, no, I don't think I'm actually getting in their bed tonight. If every night you're too tired to deal with it, then every night is more of the same. If you rush into your child's bedroom and you don't give your child an opportunity to fall asleep or stick to your boundaries, nothing is ever going to change. So I coach parents on how to respond calmly and matter-of-factly so that kids intrinsically learn to want to stay in bed using situationally appropriate sleep training methods. Age-appropriate sleep methods. So the 4 in pink are ways to teach independent sleep, and those in green are ways parents can handle or respond to children when they are already able to fall asleep on their own, but they don't want to stay in a bed. So I believe in positive reinforcement, and these reward and incentivize the child to want to stay in a bed. How mom and dad respond is critical for all of these situations. If you notice, cry it out is not the only method I listed here. It is not the only method to teach independent sleep. We don't use all of these methods at once, and I help my clients choose the right sleep method for their family based on their child, age, temperament, and their specific situation and parental style. Early waking is another common issue for kids. It is normal, actually ideal, for a child to wake between 6 a.m. and 7:30 a.m. If your child is waking between 4 and 6, these are the common factors that we look at together. You'll notice that most of what is listed here we have already talked about today, and it is important to see how these habits and routine impact sleep. If you'd like to learn more details on how to troubleshoot this issue, again, I have a guide on my website, or feel free to email me with questions.
Karen, we have a question here. So Carolyn's asking, my 3-year-old will sometimes get into bed after the routine and then say she's hungry even after a bedtime snack. I don't want to be cruel and put her to bed hungry, or is this a ploy to avoid going to bed?
My 3-year-old will sometimes, let me just practice that one more time. So my 3-year-old will sometimes get in bed after the routine and say she's hungry, even after bedtime snack. I don't want to be cruel and put her to bed hungry. So that's a great question. So this is often a ploy and a delay tactic for children. So I would take a pause, and you know what she ate for dinner, right? At 3 years old, she is capable of having a good dinner, right? So I would pause and take a look at what does your bedtime routine look like? What time is bedtime? What is going around in the situation around here? And if she is honestly hungry or if she's not. So most likely, like I said, it's a ploy to avoid going to bed. And what is those reasons? Is she overtired? Is she looking for you to rub her back before she goes to sleep? There's other ways, I can go back. So some of these options here, kiss and game, bedtime pass, sticker chart, some of these we would work together to see what would be the best for her personality and what would work best for her. But most likely she needs to be incentivized to stay in bed. If she's trying to get out of bed, then again, and feel free to comment here. We can have a discussion real fast, Carolyn. Do you think that when is she getting out of bed and coming into your bed at this time? Or is she just saying, I'm hungry, and what happens in this situation?
Yeah, she's just calling and saying she's hungry and I'm hungry.
But she stays in her bed?
If I come in right away. 'Cause
Yeah. So I would recommend,
there's a little brother who I don't want to be woken up either. So
very, very common. Yeah. So it honestly does sound like it's a ploy. Like I said, you know how much she's eaten. You can handle this, just make sure that if she has to have a snack between bedtime and, before she gets in the tub for bath or something, right? That's fine. But most likely, to incentivize her, you want to create some kind of, I'll use a kissing game, for example. You would go in and you would say, not maybe a kissing game. With that one, you would go in and you would say goodnight, kiss her on the cheek, and you would leave, and you wouldn't even get to the doorway, and you would go back and give her a kiss and say, things like that. And you progressively get further into the hallway, and then you come up with longer excuses. And we couldn't dive into it deeper, but essentially you want to trust. The point of kissing game is for her to learn that you'll always come back. And that it might be her just wanting you to stay longer, or for you to, continue to stay with her longer. And so most likely, short answer is yes, I do think that it is a ploy. It's very common for kids to use hunger, thirst, potty, things like that as an excuse to not go to bed. But
well, also, it's funny because I have older kids, so and looking back at that time, it's so stressful, and you don't want to do something wrong, and to look at putting a child that's 3 to bed that's saying that she's hungry is cruel too. Like, is that cruel to say that, you're putting your child, if you think she's going to bed hungry, she'll be fine. She's probably eating, and if she's otherwise healthy, is it that bad if she was hungry? Is that horrible to say? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And if she's legitimately hungry, I would look for her food intake during the rest of the day, right? So like it's yeah. Then the bedtime pass is also another one that I would really look at in this situation, probably more than the kissing game, to be honest. She could have 3 options. You make a little sticker chart with her, or like an index card, excuse me, and she can say she can hand over a bedtime pass, and then she could have a snack. But then she wants to save it, the other 2 passes, and then in the morning she could get some kind of reward. So it incentivizes her to not use those passes, because in the morning she could get a reward, things like that. So it's not cruel. If she's, feel free to email me if you want to talk about this more. So this is a true story. This is a real client who thought she was beyond repair. When we started, she was sleeping on a twin bed on the floor of her child's room. They were co-sleeping, and he would only ever nap on her or in a car. He didn't have a consistent schedule. She always had to have him fall asleep on her boob before he would fall asleep, and he would wake every 2 hours overnight. The parents were beyond exhausted and so frustrated. On our first night together, Mom was back in her bed. Hubby was grateful for that. And within just a few days, her baby was sleeping in the crib, falling asleep independently and sleeping through the night. And so that's one of the reasons I love what I do, is seeing those kind of transformations. So we talked about the 4-month regression. So another major issue that parents face is regression. Unlike the 4-month regression, that is the biological change in sleep, there are other progressions aligned with physical development and milestones, like learning to sit, crawl, walk, and so forth. If you have an independent sleeper, it is often easier to get back on track. So the 4-month is biological, physiological change, whereas the other ones are often related to physical developmental milestones or situational So before we get to more questions, I want to talk about the importance of communication. Along with consistency, communication is one of those keys to success for all of this. You know your child needs to know what you expect of them, and you need to follow through. Going back to our example of not letting your child sleep in your bed, you have to manage expectations. If you live up to it and follow through, you have to live up to it and you have to follow through. And don't underestimate your child's ability to understand, even at a really young age. They understand even when they can't verbalize it back. And if you're dealing with a younger toddler that isn't quite verbal, just remember that they understand. So talking to them constantly, communicating is all so important. So one of the reasons I love working with families one-on-one or in small group settings is because I can help cut through the noise and the clutter and get them results and help make sleep easy. No family is the same, and no two children, even in the same family, are the same. And as I said before, what works for family A might not work for family B. That's why my sleep plans are all not one size fits all. I can take into consideration if the child is sharing a room with a parent or with a sibling, or what the parent's comfort level is with the crying and parenting style, and we work together as a team. The reason that this kind of support is so effective is that the communication and the accountability that happens when clients work with me. Because to be honest, you can Google a lot of what I've told you today, but sleep training is like hiring a personal trainer. You can work out on your own, but having someone hold you accountable, helping you set goals and realistic expectations, and cheering you on increases your likelihood of your success. A sleep expert like myself knows evidence-based sleep methods and is working directly with you to answer questions in real time, to troubleshoot, give you step-by-step directions, and follow and remove any of the guesswork. Because one of the reasons parents often fail when they sleep train on their own is that there's self-doubt that can happen. Is this normal? Is this what's supposed to happen? Am I doing this right? Parents may doubt what to do next, and it helps to have an expert with an objective eye there to support you and encourage you. Saying, I have done this before, I know this works, that's progress, keep going, or nope, you know what, let's pivot, let's try this instead, right? So it's really good and to have somebody in your corner. I also hear people say that they want their child to sleep better, but they don't want to sleep train. So speaking of having a lot of misinformation, what is sleep training? Sleep training is commonly misunderstood and tends to be controversial because people think it is harmful or centered around leaving the child to cry alone. It is often synonymous with extinction, also known as cried out. Cried out is an effective method when executed properly, but often it is done incorrectly. It's cried out simply when parents do the bedtime routine, say goodnight and close the door, and do not return at all until morning, period. Many folks will say, I did cry it out last night and she cried for an hour and then I went to get her. That intervention, what makes those families unsuccessful, and part of the reason cried out is so misunderstood. It is not for every family though. On top of that misconception on how to execute it, there's the misconception that sleep training is cried out. But it is not the only method, as we saw before. There are a variety of methods and approaches, and I help clients choose the right method for sleep for their family. Sleep training is simply teaching a child how to fall asleep independently. It is a safe, effective way to help a baby get the sleep that they need to set them up for a lifetime of healthy sleep habits. It is about parents setting up ideal environments suitable for healthy sleep for their child, creating a routine, facilitating behavioral changes, establishing boundaries, teaching the child to self-soothe and to fall asleep without the parental intervention or assistance. Sleep is not a luxury. Parenting is hard enough. Sometimes we as parents, moms especially, we tend to rationalize that exhaustion is just part of motherhood, or that we feel guilty for wanting to change something about our child. It saddens me to see how much false information and mom shaming is happening on the internet. I am not here to judge you. Maybe you've seen a mom ask a question in the Facebook group and got shamed into thinking that sleep training is dangerous for the baby, or just enjoy the cuddles now because this won't last forever, or whatever you may have seen. And while that is all true, it won't last forever. It is so important for moms to know that just because you're a parent, it doesn't mean that you need to give up or sacrifice the cuddles or your mental health. You do not need to struggle. Just because sleep issues are common, it does not need to be your normal. Feeling exhausted or invalidated is a recipe for declining mental health. If you are ready to make a change and are considering help, know you are not alone. It is safe and we can do this together. People also ask, when do I need to sleep train? The short answer is when you are ready. If whatever you are doing is no longer working, then it is time to sleep train, and it is life-changing. So I hope you've all learned something today. And I hope you found this valuable and informative. So before we get to questions, we have folks that have came today. So as a thank you for coming today, I have a $5 gift card. I will let Michelle pick out of a hat for who is the lucky winner.
Carolyn,
Carolyn, would you like $5 to Amazon or to Starbucks?
Starbucks, please.
Wonderful. So I will, Michelle and I will work together to make sure that you get that Starbucks card.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming. And so if you have a friend or you are at a point where you need to make a change in your life and your child's sleep habits, let's talk. See how I can help you reach your goals. Again, I work with newborns 0 to 6. And if you don't already, follow me at Sleep Tight Tonight Coach on Instagram. My Super Sleeper package includes 3 weeks of support, unlimited communication, a graduation packet with FAQs, and 3 check-in calls, and a ton more. For this group, I am offering $50 off my Super Sleeper Sleep Solutions program and an extra free check-in call during the 3 weeks, just for you. So reach out today to set up a free 15-minute sleep assessment call to get started and mention Alternative Balance in the referral section as who I can thank for referring you section to get this special deal. Thanks again so much for having me today, Michelle. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them. If you're watching this recording, feel free to email me. I want to be the best possible resource for you so everyone can get the sleep that they need. Thank you.
great. That was great, Karen. You know, it's so funny. I mean, I would have loved to have someone guide me, you know, like, because I had no idea what I was doing with babies, and it was really hard, you know, like, and I was so disorganized and I didn't really know like what end was up, right? So like just to have someone to check in with and just to reassure me and you know, that would have been so valuable. So it's great work that you're doing, and thank you for doing that.
Thank you very much. I love helping families, and it's really life-changing. Getting the sleep that you need and having someone there to support you it's overwhelming to be a parent, especially first-time parent. You don't know what's up, and you know,
Yeah.
hey, this is normal. This isn't normal. You know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, and there is a lot of judgment out there too, right? Like, so, and as a new mom, you're very susceptible to just not feeling like you're doing it right. And so, you know, it's really great. So, thank you. And thank you for presenting today and answering Carolyn's question. So I think if no one has any other questions, I think we're good.
All right, wonderful. Well, I hope everyone has a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.